CMMS Radio talks about all things CMMS, computerized maintenance management software, focused on maintenance management. It's the people, the process, and the culture that make your CMMS journey a success.
All right, we are back. We're recording live at Streamline Conferences. We are in Greenville, South Carolina. This 2026 event is incredible, and you can see them on screen already, but I just got to tell you, I've seen two keynotes today at this event that blew my mind, and I'm accustomed to hosting the real deal pros, the ones that I tell you can really work with and really learn from and get your guidance. But George Williams, first of all, welcome back to CMMS Radio, brother.
Oh, thanks for having me, Greg. I love it.
Well, and also I want to thank you for bringing the rig again. So anybody that doesn't know, if I haven't said it on any of the other episodes, these episodes are sponsored by ReliabilityX, Streamline, handful of others. The event itself has a lot of sponsors too, but it's a Hexagon event. They're the premier sponsor. But what George just did was present a keynote based on this concept that we have for the conference this year, which is speak for the assets. And that's kind of based on the Lorax. And the way he stitched this together and put together the slides and told a story that was meaningful at every step of the way, I loved it. It helped me. So thank you for that. And how the hell did you come up with this concept?
You're not going to like the answer to that. I'm not a great preparer. I don't prepare a lot. So on Friday, I created a bunch of images, and then this morning I put it all together. so we did a 1-hour keynote with no practice, and just some slides that we put together. But it's not a hard story to tell, right? So the premise behind the Lorax and doing what's right for something, right? In the case of that story, the trees, right? Well, for us, that's the assets, right? So we have to speak for the assets. So the keynote address kind of preempted speak for the assets with, well, we have to learn what the assets need in order to be able to be their advocate, right? Your asset needs a certain level of care, and in the Lorax, they have the truffula trees, and they require a certain level of care. So what I figured I would do is kind of tie the asset to the truffula tree. I didn't want to focus on the cutting down of the trees. I wanted to focus on what it takes to keep the forest together. And that kind of tied into how a plant operates and what individual assets need versus what the collection and system of assets need. In addition, we covered, what happens when people make bad choices, like in the Lorax, the Onceler cuts down the trees, and O'Hara's bottling air because, he wants all the pollution, and so he can sell air. So management makes choices that mangle up the forest. And so we kind of covered both of those topics. We covered what an asset needs and how what we decide messes up the reliability of a plant, right? To try to get people to learn more of the business inside the organization that makes choices that impact reliability. So the more they learn about reliability, more they can advocate for the asset and raise awareness to people around how their choices impact the plant performance.
Well, and we saw a lot of recurring themes, and I want to go back to something you just said about the preparation for this and how that is, to some it might sound and seem like, and it certainly feels like a shotgun approach. However, based on experience, knowledge, and what you're really dealing with, it's actually ideal, because isn't that how things go down in maintenance environments, especially the reactive ones, but even the ones that aren't so reactive, where you don't have a tremendous amount of time. You have to make decisions based on your own cognitive matrix or I don't know how to pluralize that, but you have to make spot decisions that are fairly critical because you don't necessarily have time because the cost is too great to take that time. So you have to constantly be practicing what you practice. You have to always be looking for opportunities to learn more, even if it's just a little teeny bit, slightly different take on what you already knew, not, I know this shit. And if you maintain that, you're kind of in a state of readiness.
And that's why it was so important to sit in Bob Latino's session this morning, because I learned from all the people I learned from everybody. Long before ReliabilityX, I was teaching at the University of Wisconsin way back in 2009. And part of the reason I love to teach is because I learn from everybody else in the room. And I learn what is working, what's not working, what trends are happening. I learn all kinds of things that I learn perspectives I didn't have. I learn an experience through someone else's experience that I wasn't accounting for in how I teach something. And so all of those things are important. And when I sit in a session like Bob Latino's, I'm learning from another expert and someone I respect greatly in the industry. And from that, I'll steal his content and use it. When I teach class on root cause analysis, I have a quote from Bob from his book that talks about the 5 Why and how it was part of the Toyota production system and how they used it. And it triggers a conversation I have about how the 5 Why, was utilized and how it helped develop coaches from the supervision layer and all those aspects of why it was right at the shop floor, but why it's so wrong as a root cause tool. So it was great to have him present those things, but I certainly give him credit. It's his quote directly from his book. But I learn from everybody. You have to be continually learning. If you're not continually learning, then you're stagnant, right? I mean,
yeah,
stagnant.
Well, that's kind of without saying the words. If you are just laying back and you're not improving and you're not trying to learn something new or challenge your own beliefs and what you thought was working, maybe that has changed. It's almost like we've always done it that way, and you just kind of stay with that, and you deal with a bunch of other stuff. That's akin to firefighting mode.
Oh yeah,
constantly.
Yeah.
With the keynote that you gave, the reason I was so fascinated with how it was structured and put together is I was watching the slides, listening to you talk, watching you talk, and I was thinking, damn, I wonder if that's ever going to be made public, because it really does help someone that's not a long time or not even a CMRP or reliability professional like me to get it even more, to start to find these little extra things that are reinforcing. Like, I'm at a point now after these few years, some of the questions you ask, I can answer some of them, but not very many. But the people like at my table, Bryant Biasky or whatever, he's like, he says this, and then that's what you said.
Right.
And it's just an incredible way for learning, an incredible way to learn and get people inspired as to why this conference is so special. And I can't reiterate that enough, that it's a community-focused conference around assets, caring for those assets, speaking for those assets, and really being able to get somewhere and getting those collaborations, the discussions, without selling a bunch of shiny technology and nonsense. It's really based in that. And this is my second time back, and now I can confirm that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah. We've told this story before, so I'm not going to go down that path, but I love this conference for the same reasons. I think it's great that this year he's got a star-studded agenda on the maintenance and reliability side. He's always had that on the Hexagon side. And I think this conference will continue to grow to be a maintenance and reliability conference that's in partnership with the Hexagon side of things. I don't think that will change, but I think it will continue to grow as long as he continues to get these great speakers. People are going to want to come learn from those speakers, because when people leave here this time, they're going to say, this was awesome, this was awesome, this was awesome, this was awesome, and next year they're going to bring more people. And it'll continue to grow. And I think I support it because there's the community ideal behind it is untarnishable. It's the integrity that the conference requires. And as long as that stays and holds true, this will continue to grow as a community, and he'll continue to get great speakers that have a passion for educating others, right? That's why we do what we do. And
the key to that, I believe, is staying on that intention around the community and the people who inform and help put this whole thing together is why that really works, because they'll say, no, we're not doing that.
Yes.
That doesn't quite work. That's too salesy. I'm lucky enough to be involved, as you are, with when people submit abstracts and things to make presentations on, we get to review them, and then we all talk about them, and we can kind of point out, well, hey, this one was really good, but this part and this part over here was really kind of forcing something on people to maybe buy something. And we're not worried about that at this conference, folks, because that'll work itself out. We need to focus on what we're really trying to do, where we're trying to go. And again, that gets back to not only your keynote, but your workshop. I talked to some people today about your workshop. Unfortunately, they're not willing to sit down and record. They say they will, but then it's not easy for.
So it was
everybody.
all bad stuff then.
No, it was good stuff. It was really good stuff, and last night as well. By the way, we've got a picture. I finally posted it and tagged everybody.
Oh, nice.
We were all lined up from that HML we had with Bob last night, and you just look at that and it's like, damn. These are the real people that will help you. And
yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Let me ask you what you think is new. Now, we're not done with the conference. I mean, we still got,
it's only day one of workshops. Yeah.
Workshops yesterday, and today's like the kickoff and all that good stuff.
Workshops, today's sessions, I meant.
Yeah. Have you noticed anything different about how we set it up and what people are kind of asking about, like from your workshop or any of the side talks where you're talking to people?
I think it's good that the tracks are in alignment where you don't have competition in a similar track. The tracks are very well defined, so that if I'm on the maintenance and reliability side, I don't have to pick between two maintenance and reliability experts. I'm getting a straight line of them. And if I happen to be on the IT side and I want to learn something about maintenance and reliability, I know exactly where to go because it's right there on the agenda in that space. So I think it's structured really well for that purpose. I like the idea of having an afternoon keynote. Gives an opportunity for, maybe this year it's me and a bunch of other reliability experts, but maybe next year it's some people from the audience being able to speak to a broader audience about their experience. I think that's a good opportunity. I think, I think it's structured really well. The Streamline folks did a phenomenal job of working not only with the advisory board, but in and of themselves to make it happen.
I couldn't agree more, and it's important because we're at a new venue this year. We wanted to kind of test the waters on that and see how that's going to play out. That's going pretty good. We're closer. It's easier to get around, all that kind of stuff with regards to the different sessions. Of course, lunch and breakfast, that's always a good thing to have, get your energy. But as far as the things that came up during, for example, your workshop, things that came up in the way of questions, was there anything that really right now just jumps out at you that you remember from the workshop yesterday?
Yeah, so just to explain that workshop, we go through the entire framework, the Maintenance and Reliability Best Practices framework, and at the end of explanation of each domain, the attendees take a survey, a gap analysis against their own plant for how they're doing in those respective building blocks. And at the end of all that, they end up with charts, a Pareto analysis and some bubble charts of where they need to work, where the opportunity is in their plants. And they learn how to build a document that helps them present to leadership why they should be working on that building block. I think the biggest questions we get after that are related to how do I tell the story? Like, that we're trying to do 40 building blocks in 8 hours and take surveys and see results. And there's not quite enough time to teach them truly how to present that to leadership and how to write the ROI. It'd be nice to do maybe a day and a half workshop, but I don't know if people want to sit through that. But so the biggest question I think we get is really great. Now, what do I do if leadership tells me no? Or how do I make sure they don't tell me no? Or, who do I have to engage with to get this to be successful? Because they've been hearing no for years and years and years.
Yeah, and the challenge when you keep hearing no and you you've got something here and you can't figure out how to get them to even say maybe, even, hey, let me learn more about this. I don't want to say yes or no until I really understand, right? Let me go and see, show me some of this stuff. You hear no enough times, you'll give up.
Yeah.
And then you'll focus in again on this one thing that looms over all of us is, well, let me meet the metrics by which I'm measured. These are the KPIs that they love. I can do that.
Right.
But you still might not be satisfied, and that can lead to a lot of things. And people say, oh, you're always talking about that kind of stuff, and it's like human stuff. And it's like, well, if somebody's happy, they do good work for the most part.
Yeah, right? No doubt.
And they feel safe in caring about what they do because they're kind of seen. I'm not talking about like, oh, you're ignoring me. More like you're appreciated and everybody's kind of moving in that team effort.
Right.
Like, oh, here's something that came up. You don't have people saying shit like, oh, that's not my job.
Right.
When you have people in your organization that are saying that's not my job, you have a serious culture problem.
Yeah, and you have an awareness problem. People don't understand how it is their job. They don't understand what's in it for them, and no one's explained it to them, and lots of scenarios there. It's always interesting to me when people are unable to articulate it. Unfortunately, I usually tell them it's your fault.
Well, we talked about that because we did a panel discussion today where I hosted or moderated, whatever you call that, and had yourself, had Brian Bieski, and we had Peter, whose last name I always butcher, so sorry, Peter, but he's awesome. And we got into that topic, and then you also were kind of helping people understand with the questions how that relates to your usage of EAM, and that could be the same philosophy or approach when it comes to a CMMS.
Yeah.
And this becomes your, it's your historian, and that's all fine and good. We want to make sure it's a good contextual history. Yeah. But when we take these things and combine them, like attitude of the team, the employees, the visibility to and from leadership, and we get moving right, and we start digging in, and we were talking on that panel about the value of optimizing your PMs and not doing unnecessary work, because most organizations don't know what's necessary versus not. They think everything's necessary.
Or nothing is.
But the technology itself fits into that quite nicely when you're moving well, entering data well, staying on top of it, and then maintaining that process. But it falls apart very easily. I think sometimes it really does come down to attitude. Is that a possible number one culprit of people not buying in? Is it just their attitude?
Everything's a leadership issue.
Yeah.
If people have the wrong attitude, it's a leadership issue.
And then
if we don't believe, so if we think the job is just execute work orders, it's a leadership problem. If we have a bad attitude because we keep getting blamed because there's failures, even though those failures may not be mechanical in nature or electrical in nature, they're the line process nature, it's a leadership issue. If we are don't have the data or the support to get everything inside of EAM to make good choices, it's a leadership issue. Everything in the plant that's not perfect is a leadership issue.
And then let's get back to, I want to switch it again back to today's keynote that you delivered this afternoon. The question, who owns or the question about
who decides what an asset needs?
Who decides what an asset needs? And a lot of people are trying to think, well, that's the maintenance manager. Oh, it's operations, or no, it's this person or that person. It's none of that.
No.
It's the asset itself.
That's correct.
And it's elementary, but maybe that's why it gets overlooked so often.
Not only overlooked, it's abused, right? You've got people in finance that say arbitrarily, everybody has to cut 10% of their budget. So maintenance now has to cut 10% of their budget. Well, which asset do you want to fail?
Yeah.
The asset requires a certain level of care. You're telling me I cannot provide that. Which assets would you like me to not provide that for? Which ones do you want to fail? They're not going to say they want any of them to fail, and when they do fail, your phone's still going to ring, and they're going to go, how come the line's down? Well, you cut my budget by 10%.
They just want that 10%, and you even
said... You can expect 10% more failures. I don't know what to tell you. You chose it, right? Like, you're trying to dictate what an asset, what the care of an asset needs to be, and you don't decide that. You decided it when you bought it. It's designed a certain way, right? You buy the Toyota, you apply the Toyota maintenance budget, you're in great shape. You buy a Ferrari and apply the Toyota maintenance budget, tell me how well you're going to run.
Not at all.
Right. So you don't get the choice. Your seat, your title, your money, none of that mattered. The asset requires a certain level of care to deliver its value proposition.
And that is all based on design intent.
That's correct.
And you're not going to change that.
That's right. I mean, you can spend money to change it. But,
well, you could re-engineer it.
Right. You can re-engineer it, but outside of that, no, you don't get to make the choice.
If everybody would just get on that page alone, there'd be.
It's hard, right? So you're the finance person or somebody high up in the company, and I'm maintenance. How comfortable do you think I should be to come to you and say you're unqualified to tell me what it takes to take care of the equipment?
That's dangerous.
Right. It's extremely dangerous. So you have to be able to explain it in more simplified terms that doesn't create that risk.
Yeah, and even when you try to come up with a strategy where you can allow them to discover this.
Yeah, you always have to let them come to the end result, right?
Yeah.
Should I do the job with craftsmanship, or should I let it mangle itself a week later and have to redo the work? Which one do you think we should do? And they're going to say, do it right. Okay. Should we do things with a level of precision that reduces wear so the asset doesn't need replacement parts as fast? Or should I do it off kilter and have all my wear components wear faster?
Well, we don't want the latter.
Right. So then it's, should I use technology and know in advance, or should I let it just shit the bed and take the line down?
No, we go with the technology, and we want that. The reason we want people to do that work and take that time, we know it's painful, but you spend that time and do that work right so that you now can focus on the work of
Right.
maintenance.
So you ask management these questions very simply to get them to generally align that those things are the right things to do.
So
Now you have to secure the funding to make that happen, right? So you need EAM, and you need the data in EAM to show rework. How many times did we have to go back and fix the same asset? That's because we're not doing things with precision, or we're not trained well. So now I can secure funding with that because I can justify the spend that's existed over the last 12 months. Then you say, well, I need the technology. And they say, well, I'm not giving you $20,000 for an ultrasound gun or $30,000. And you say, okay, that's great, but we've had X number of events that this would have picked up on these days, and we lost this amount of production because of it. So you lost millions of dollars because you don't want to spend 20 grand. Like, are we on the same page? Is that really the choice we want to make? So you have to simplify it, and you have to have the information inside a system like EAM to help you with that argument. And you have to know the business so you know what downtime actually costs. So that's kind of the end result of the keynote, is that you have to understand not only what the asset needs, but you have to understand how the business operates and what it costs for that downtime. And you have to know how to get the data out of EAM. And if you can do those couple of things, then you have a much greater chance. It's not a 100% chance, but you have a much greater chance of getting the support you need.
yeah, and that also reminds me about when we engage or endeavor to take on a project like this, and maybe we're going to bring in a resource like yourself. It's important that we know as much as we can about our business, why we're about to do what we're going to do, or what we're struggling with, so we can at least have a good foundation for you to start to see the gaps and see where you can make a difference and where you can help. I mean, none of this is an easy button. It's work, it's hard work, it's fulfilling work. And what we're trying to do is eliminate the stuff. Like, you were talking about this, and it just popped into my head, like, okay, so I live out in California, and we had
Sorry to hear that.
I know, we had those fires and all that stuff, right? And
Oh, yeah.
the whole point I'm trying to make here is that do we want to suffer all the catastrophic loss and the spend and running around trying to slow down or put out those fires, as opposed to we could have done a bunch of stuff beforehand that it wouldn't have been that bad, or maybe not at all, right? Like
a risk that has never become reality tends to be thought of as a much smaller risk than it actually is. So when we tell management this is going to fail, but that's never happened before yet, they don't believe that that's true, that level of risk is a reality, and so they are hesitant to invest money to mitigate a risk that has never actually happened yet.
Ooh.
And so, unfortunately, that's why sometimes when a catastrophic event occurs, that's when you actually ask for money.
Right. And does that relate to that same scenario that I think it was at the end of Bob Latino's keynote, where organizations will spend the big money to fix this problem they have right now,
Right.
but they won't spend the correct money, the correct investment,
Right.
in the strategies and the things that would have prevented that in the first place. And it's this repeating cycle,
That's correct.
and
And there's a lot of factors to why. Like in some cases, it's because management knows they're going to be there only a couple years and they're going to get promoted and moved on. So somebody else's problem, I'm not spending the money.
sure, but I'm going to get my money in my bank account.
Because their risk is until they leave. Their risk is not the life of the asset.
Now that's interesting, because another thing I'm always thinking about is how people used to kind of stick and stay within organizations, and that's mostly just gone.
Yeah.
And let's not play the blame game, but let's just have an awareness of it, that you now have to have, as an organization, with whatever you manufacture, whatever you do, whatever you produce, you have to have these extra mitigation strategies for the turnover, the self-exiting
Yep.
people that might be one of your group of champions, and that's a fatal flaw as well.
Yeah, two things there. I think one, that's why companies need standards. So they don't want to spend money writing a standard, but if a standard exists, it's harder for a new manager to come in and just change everything. Because SOPs exist and people have approved them, and this is the way we do things, and it's documented. It's real easy to change stuff that no one has documented.
Right.
The second part of that is, yeah, you're right. You need a business continuity plan for when a risk is going to actually happen. So let's say we identify some risk, whether it's a management leaving or it's some risk to the business on the equipment side. If management decides, well, we're not spending the money to mitigate it, at least have a backup plan. What do we do if it actually comes to fruition, right? That's a business continuity strategy.
Yeah. Curious question. I think I've asked you this in the past, but just right now it popped into my head again. There's definitely organizations that are reliable that don't have certain solutions in place. They might not even have a CMMS. But when you see one, is there something you see when you do like a walk down, a facility walk down? You're out doing a facility assessment. You're helping them assess where they're at in their process, where there's a glaring gap in what they do that you could directly tie to their lack of having a CMMS or EAM?
My initial thought there is not really. You can be really good at maintenance and not use the CMMS. It's going to make it very hard for you to do continuous improvement and optimization and some other stuff. So as much as I don't want to say it here, but it's not a requirement for success. It's a requirement for as close as you can get to perfection, right? Like it's a requirement for you can get it. Success is not a linear thing, right? It's an arc. And you can get a lot of success early, and it's easy to get, and then it starts getting harder and harder and harder. Once the curve starts tipping, that's when you really need a CMMS, because I can't analyze data I don't have.
There it is. And that, it sounds like a broken record. Oh, well, if you're not documenting this and that, and you don't have a database that's searchable or somehow usable and can give you these useful clues and information over the last 2 months, 2 years, 2 decades, it still sounds like peddling wares, because people have learned to kind of just, I am in such a situation that I don't have even a second to even think about that. You can have your utopia. I love the idea, but I got a bunch of fires to put out, and it just is like that. And I think everybody knows it, and they're like, I know I need to do that. I can't, so I just have to keep living through this pain. And there's a bunch of money on the line.
You know what, though? When they go on vacation for a week, the plant doesn't shut down. So just go work on the proactive stuff.
Yeah.
It's a bullshit excuse. It's a bullshit excuse for not being brave enough to take the first step.
Does it really irk you when you go into these different, these places that...
I don't know. It never frustrates me or angers me. It disappoints me. We don't need to be in that position. It disappoints me because the plant leadership should have done better. I'm never disappointed in the shop floor. There are plenty of reasons why the behavior, culture, reactivity exists, but leadership should have supported making sure those folks are educated, processes are in place, their system is structured right, and they're just not doing it because they're too worried about today's number and not enough about the longevity of the plant and overall reliability and profitability of the plant. They're so worried about today that no one is working on tomorrow. And if no one works on tomorrow, then we can expect the same shit we have today.
And that somehow gets reinforced that what we're doing is what we should be doing, so we keep doing it.
Yeah, they think that's the job. I mean, don't get me wrong, management needs an education too. It's not them being poor leaders by choice. It's by ignorance. They don't understand the value of the maintenance department, and they don't understand how to get the value from the assets.
That's so to be clear, less castigating. This is more of an invitation. This is more of a, hey, we see it, and we want you to as well, and there's people that will help you. You can get out of this.
Yeah. We know 5 minutes into walking a plant what it's like.
Yeah.
It takes 5 minutes. If somebody from leadership goes out on a plant floor with us to give us our initial tour, we know 5 minutes in what this organization is going to be like.
Yeah,
and we don't know it by seeing reactivity. We know it by the behavior of the leader walking us.
So that starts to tell you right away the overall culture.
1,000%. I know whether they did or didn't say hello to people they walked past. I know whether or not they picked up a piece of trash that we walked by. I know whether or not the organization is well led by the tour.
Yeah. These are, there's so many different ways to cut it, and a lot of it's the same but different. It's those nuances. I talk about it all the time, that we need to hear these things over and over again, and we need to do something about it. More importantly, I wanted to ask, when people take your workshop, at the end, do they also get any information on the community that's being launched? I wanted to just ask about that, because a lot of the resources, if there's not enough time, in a single day workshop, there's things available if they're really serious about doing it, where they could become a part of that community. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, sure. So at our website, we have you have the ability to create a free membership. It doesn't cost anything. And with that free membership, you get access to all of our historical webinars. You get access to our online quizzing platform. We use a platform called Kahoot, and we have a special license that lets any user run a Kahoot for their team. So you can ask your team, a 10-question quiz on pneumatics or hydraulics or something electrical. And those access to those Kahoots is through that membership. There's also free downloadables. Some of the stuff that we charge, $10 for, an asset decision logic tree or something like that. That's really simple. If you're a member, that stuff's free. And it doesn't cost anything to be a member. And if it not, I've got people that still pay the $10, and you're like, why do you pay the $10? Like, go create the free membership. So there's also a forum where people can ask questions. We're still in our infancy of that, so it's going to take a while for that community to get some head of steam. But the more people that join, the faster it'll get ahead of steam. So we'd love people to join.
The reason I bring it up is, I'm in there and I talked to Joe about it, and the idea here is that when you get to learn from someone like yourself, and then you leave a conference and you've given them some tools already, there's more that they could avail. And the other thing I wanted to ask about the workshop, and we'll close out on this note, at least for this episode, because we'll do more before we leave.
Oh yeah.
The value proposition that they need to then build to make those cases, to make a presentation and possibly get the blessing to do a real assessment and project. If they couldn't do that here because there's no time, are those people that were in that workshop able to just reach out to you?
Always. Anyone that's ever taken a class either at the University of Wisconsin or directly through ReliabilityX, or anyone we've ever bumped into and networked with, will tell you that they ask us questions, send us emails, and we respond. We might not respond that day, but we don't charge to answer a question.
That's great. I mean, it's not as common as people might think. It really isn't.
Unfortunately.
So, yeah. Well, George Williams, ReliabilityX. First of all, thank you for bringing the rig again for our second go-around here at Streamline Conferences, and thanks for being on CMMS Radio, brother.
Awesome. Always a pleasure, Greg. Thank you for having me, man.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Did you find this episode helpful? Please send us some feedback, suggest a topic, or ask a question. Reach out to CMMS Radio if you need a co-pilot on your CMMS project. Visit CMMSradio.com and use the What's on Your Mind link. Thank you for tuning in to CMMS Radio, your resource for all things CMMS, from selection to implementation, to help you make better choices, learn from industry experts, and have a successful CMMS journey.